I'm Anna.
And I'm Ben.
And we are AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we're watching Attack on Titan, Season 4, Episode 3. How are you doing today?
I am feeling a lot better today. Thank you for asking. I felt pretty bad last night. Was under the weather.
Getting a little sick.
Yes. Allergy season.
Yeah, and it's like
or
getting
possibly
cold out.
Sick. I'm going to hope it's allergies.
Yeah, allergies, hopefully, right?
But it rained last night.
It did rain
so it
last
should be
night.
better
I
today.
love the rain. Okay, Attack on Titan. Yes. So, I just want to say that I'm really loving the series right now. I always am loving the series. But I feel like after the basement reveal, you had one of the hardest parts of writing any story, right? Just after this big reveal, after all this build-up, after all this action, how do you keep going? What's the right way? And everything they've done so far is just, like, perfect for me, and I'm just really enjoying it. That being said, when I was editing last episode, I had realized how I did not give the attention enough, the episode enough attention, I think. I think I was too one-track minded about halfway through with the idea of like, oh my god, Eren and Jean are definitely there. And after editing it and being able to reread the dialogue and stuff, I really love what they're doing with Reiner's character. It's so great, and I love, like, especially his conversation with Falco. I would love to know more about what's going on in Reiner's mind and how much time he's had to think about the broad world at large. I don't know, the moral questions that are actually happening in front of him, and seeing the real people that are the Eldians living on the island of Paradis, and how they're more than just gross, you know?
I think for Reiner to live and feel safe in these moments, these years that he has now returned, I think he has to just act and not think. I think we saw pretty clearly that the moment his mouth opens and he starts talking on Paradis, they start tumbling out these thoughts and feelings that don't fit the script for Marley.
Yeah.
And I think that we touched on it last episode in kind of our theorizing and our discussion, that it just seems like everyone, all of the Eldians, try to not think about it too much in Marley. They try to not focus on it too much because they might start to feel and think something that is contrary to what is safe for them to think and feel.
Yeah.
And I think we just saw, I mean, Reiner's character, he already was battling so much within himself, and then to have to see that he even more so is now, where he can't even think anymore because he has to block so much out. He has to compartmentalize so many things to truly just be able to live and not fall under or not act out in a way that could hurt his family. He really just has to act. That's all he can do is just go through the motions.
Yeah.
And it's very sad to watch that.
I almost thought he died a couple episodes ago, so I'm really curious to see how much they are going to continue to do with this character, because I could not have guessed that they would have come this far with Reiner.
I mean, he's gonna, I guess, go back to the walls. He said no more walls in the first episode.
We also were talking in a car ride we were talking a bunch about Attack on Titan and other shows, as we do. Sidebar, we might want to start like recording like a podcast or something in the car, because we're talking about this stuff so much. But we were talking more about like Zeke, and how I think both of us feel like there has to be another thing that Zeke is, like, another motive Zeke has, or another plan Zeke has that
he has to be an onion.
Yeah.
There has to be more layers.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, I also wanted to touch upon a few things that I wrote down while I was editing the last episode. One thing does relate to the whole Eren and Jean being there already theory or guess idea. I think it's like confirmed as far as I'm thinking, so I'm going to be really upset if it doesn't happen. But how it's such a good parallel to Reiner and Bert infiltrating the entire series, right? And how betrayed Eren has felt about that. This would be kind of the perfect revenge.
Well, this season really is acting as a season of parallels, showing us basically a new world and new characters, but with similar themes.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you were hyper focused on it in the last episode, but I think when you have theories about the show, that is so fun to look through the lens of your theories. And, they might end up being wrong, but they might end up being right. And then that's even more exciting.
Yeah.
So it's totally okay to have theories and to find evidence for them. I don't think that will harm the viewing experience.
I'm glad to hear it. I also had Reiner just acknowledging and knowing it's a dark world, like we were just touching on a second ago, how that is going to play out, and if he is going to, I don't know, I could see Reiner making some sort of change. It depended on how the story goes. But regardless, my last thing that I had was, is Armin going to have Bert's memories when he wakes up or when we come back to him 4 years later? Is he going to have the memories of Reiner and Marcel and Annie and his whole life back here in Marley?
I remember saying in the first episode when we did our little 15 minutes away from each other and thinking about things, and I remember writing that, oh, cool, Aaron has these memories of Marley from Grisha, but those aren't recent memories. Things could have changed. So many things could have changed. And yes, when Reiner, Berthold, and Annie and Marcel set off on their mission, they were children and it had been a few years, but still those memories are closer to the reality of what Marley would be like. And so Armin could potentially know things that would be very helpful from Berthold's memories.
Especially if they're infiltrating right now.
Well, I mean, Grisha didn't have memories of being a Marleyan warrior candidate. They wouldn't know how the system works, you know? Yeah. So Grisha was just hearing things through Kruger, and that's basically all he knew.
Mm-hmm.
And then I believe they were starting looking for kids for this as candidates right before Grisha left, and that's why the whole thing with Zeke happened. That was very upsetting. So, yeah, I think you're right to point out that we haven't seen Armin have any recollection of Bert's memories yet, but it's been 4 years.
Yeah.
And, Historia's there. Maybe if he just pokes her, it'll happen.
Maybe. Who knows?
I wrote down something. I didn't edit, so I wasn't, seeing things, but I have been musing over something. Just a lofty question to want to think about kind of the morality, but also how the Eldians within Marley feel and think. It's so interesting to me. So I've been musing over this. And I was thinking that, Kruger made a point to tell Grisha that the people within the walls within Paradis do not have any memories of what happened, what transpired, what evils they did, and fleeing and leaving Eldians behind.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wrote down a few questions. I wrote, how would you feel as an Eldian in Marley if you learned that your plight was unknown by those within the walls? Is it inherently easier to hate them when you view them as abandoning you and basically the bystander effect never helping you? Is it harder to hate when you realize they weren't ignoring your suffering? So
are you saying musings. That they were? Are you that last part? Are you saying that who wouldn't be ignoring the suffering? The people who left?
Yes, because they didn't know you were suffering. Their memories are gone. So they have an how would you feel if you felt they were just knew you were suffering this whole time and they weren't helping you, but then you learned that they didn't even know that you were suffering, and you're like, why haven't they helped us at all? They haven't freed us of this. Well, they don't know. So will that diminish the hate you feel? If you realize that they weren't just leaving you to suffer and not reaching out a helping hand? You'd have to believe that they didn't know. But I do think it makes it easier to hate them. The thought of they just left you and abandoned, Mm-hmm. And are still continuing to let you suffer. Yeah. I think that under that belief, yes, totally. I wonder what the time, I want to see it actually play out. I want to see Eldians leave. I wonder what
state civilization was in when they left and how it is now in comparison.
And why did some choose to stay behind?
If some even had the choice to stay behind.
They phrase it as some chose to stay behind with Marley, but that is Marley's history in the way that Marley wanted to write it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, were they all running to escape and some of them were captured?
I don't know.
And weren't allowed to leave? We don't know because Marley wrote the history books.
I just wonder if we're ever going to see it play out, or if we're always going to be told how it played out from different perspectives, or just this one. Who knows? I don't know. Going into next episode, what do you expect? Is it going to be trying to get ready to attack Paradis again? I mean, we ended off last episode with the meeting, right? Of Zeke and Reiner and the rest of the peeps. And
yeah, I'm kind of unsure how Gabby, Falco, Zofia, Udo fit into the next episodes coming up, because obviously all of the Titans that they have are currently occupied, and those people all at least have a year. Yes. So I'm wondering how the candidates are going to work into the story more, because I feel like Falco was painted as, hey, this character is probably going to be important or could be important, especially with Reiner seeming to possibly hope that Falco is the one that inherits his Titan and not Gabby. And I just feel like they're also painting him with parallels with Eren. So I'm like, but if everyone has a year or more left and this mission they're planning to just do within this year, are the candidates just going to be just a thought for now? Hey, look at this. This is what's going on in Marley. But they aren't relevant to the story.
I would have a hard time believing that they wouldn't like sneak onto a ship or something.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That is such a. They could totally. Gabby would totally do that.
Yeah.
That character would sneak onto a ship and want to watch Reiner in action. I can see that.
Gabby is very Parent Trap. Like Gabby, and I love that for her. I just don't know. I don't know. I don't imagine them just throwing these characters to the side, but I don't know how they're actually going to use them. Because in that instance, they wouldn't really be helpful in any sense.
No, they can't turn into a powerful Titan and fight back.
Yeah.
Like they have really no use for them on this mission. And I feel like that idea itself has to be in my mind a plot twist there, or some change of events in order to have the candidates there. But I don't know, I didn't write it. I just feel like I can't figure out how to get the candidates there and why they would be there, but I'm like, please, like, is it gonna happen? I don't know. Like I feel like, do I need it? I'm sure I'll be satisfied even if it doesn't happen, but
yeah. One last thing. Peek. 2 legs. Not 1 leg. Walks on all 4s in Titan form.
The word bipedal just kind of went, woo, over my head a little bit.
I'm the backpack.
I was just so focused on the crutch that I was just like, woo, bipedal. Woo.
All right. Settled? You good?
I'm settled.
Ready?
I'm so super calm.
Ready?
Yeah.
Sweet. Reiner? Oh.
So the whole family could be together.
The only one who didn't get picked was Marcel's brother, yeah? This is so weird to see.
And then he was the one left behind. He's like Falco.
What is the music?
She totally was listening.
And he's just over there killing bugs. Oh. Like, I already felt bad for Reiner. You don't have to do that. Can we talk about that intro real quick?
Yeah.
The music was insane. It was so intense. And think about, you're in Reiner's position. All you want to do is save the world.
No wonder Porco harbors such, like, almost animosity toward Reiner. I mean, not only did his brother die on this mission, but now we get this, like, flashback of him already having issues with Reiner.
Yeah.
And he was the one left behind.
He could have, like, be the reason that his brother died. He could have let his brother die, you know, in that sense.
That maybe if Porco had been the one that went with his brother would still be alive. There's a lot going on there.
Reiner as a character, imagine
Amazing.
All he wants to do, save the world, be with his family. He goes to another place, fights to his, like, about to be death. His friends are dying around him just to be treated like shit when you come back home, and all you want to do is help and be recognized and be with the ones you love.
The Door of Hope?
So many doors, dude.
Basement doors? Doors of Hope?
This is so cool.
Mobility and endurance. His perseverance.
Oh fuck, that was Zeke. God, I'm sorry.
They're already slightly aware of his blood. He keeps apologizing to him. Is that his father? Is this when he gets eaten? He's the reason they don't go home. Intimidating us to save your own.
全て自分の責任ですって。嘘つきだ。自分のことしか考えてないくせに。悪いと思ってんなら死ねよ。
Holy shit.
The fuck?
This is fucking surreal.
It is so surreal.
俺は戦士になりたかった。父と3人で幸せに暮らせると思ったから。そんなことを望む父はどこにもいなかった。叶わないと分かっている夢を見続けていた。今日死ぬはずだった。で俺なんかを助けた。まだ何も分かってないんだ。
She was unconscious because he knocked her out and then they did the mission.
兄、本当の戦士になるから。貴様は何しにここに来た？霊を救うためです。
山奥にあった耳慣れない地響きが次第に大きくなっただと気づいて急いで窓を開けた。その後は覚えて、お前らぐらいの子供を3人残してな。
よう嬢ちゃん、こんなじじいをつが男を見る目があるよ。
What?
私は旗子、父親の話を聞かされて育ったから。
パパにハグしてほしければまず両手を上げろ。
絶対にないと言い切れるの？
ねえな、そいつは俺が一番笑えない冗談だ。
パパ！
おいおい。
今日もすごいな。
今晴天だ。
今日ってことにしとけ。
ぐっすり眠る頃。
With your
私
friends.
はオートのドブの中をいつがいたんじゃ。もう限界。
That's a fucking crazy side story I've never even.
情報を持ってマーレに歓迎してくれるよ。
She kept wanting to go
5年
home.
の成果を持ち帰れば
どうしろっての？
オールローゼを破壊をあぶり出す手段はもう他にない。
あんたらの友達は大勢死ぬね。
奴らは友達じゃない。悪むしろ孤立するお前の態度の方が。
これ以上顔を近づけないでくれる？
いつもお前ばかりに負担をかけてすまないと思う。今日はこの辺にしておこう。
同じ夢を見るんだ。おじさんの夢だ。僕たちにあんな話したんだろうって。
死んじまうぞ。くそ、どうやったらそうなれるみたいになるんや。どうやったら。俺は何も果たせず終わっちまう。
Oh, he saw himself in that. Oh my gosh.
Fuck! Oh my god!
進み続ける。そうだよな。巨人を一匹。お前ならやれる。このままじゃダメだ。
Falco's freaking timing!
俺にはあいつらが。
おい。
Your dude!
He's not my dude. He's our dude.
心的外傷の治療に
The voice actor?
俺の記憶障害で家まで帰れないってことにしてる。
Sounds like
家族に顔を合わせづらくてな。病院の人に言うか。
そんなことはしませんよ。
戦士になるための訓練か。
なれません。ついに優秀なやつがいて、俺の出番はな。
それはよかった。長生きしてくれるなら嬉しいよ。
俺はそいつを戦士にさせたくなくて。
どうして候補生は女の子が。
この前の戦争でも活躍したくらいで、次の鎧はあいつがいいって言うはず。何もできないまま終わるんだ。
俺はここに来て毎日をなんでこんなことになったんだ。竜を奪われ、自分自身も失う。誰も戦場なんか行かないだろう。地獄に足を突っ込むんだ。自分の意志じゃない。
Wasn't their
他人や
choice.
環境に今日背中を押したやつの見る地獄は別だ。
People who push their own back see a different kind of hell.
見ている。
They can see something beyond the
か
hell.
もしれないし、動くかもしれない。それは進み続けたもの。
I think I have to formally apologize to you.
All right, that was Attack on Titan season 4, episode 3. I'm a bit speechless.
I'm gonna start off with an apology, because I definitely just humored the theory last episode of the infiltration by Jean and Aaron, and you had evidence, and I humored that evidence, but I didn't fully, get on the boat or agree with it. It's I mean, like, I agreed that the evidence was sound for your theory, but it didn't, like, push me over the edge of, like, believing that it was actually the case. Obviously, like, oh, well, Aaron could have chopped his own leg off and decided when to heal it and things like that. And why was that guy staring at the warrior candidates from, like, up in a building? And that guy, the shot of the newspaper, what was up with that? So I owe you an apology about that, because I was like, wow, Ben was really hyper-fixated on this theory that he had.
No apology necessary. I'm not even thinking too much about that part because, like, this episode in a whole, I don't know if I'd say that it's my favorite episode of Attack on Titan, but it might be my favorite written episode of Attack on Titan. The writing in this episode was so extraordinary on so many different levels and character, like, just the depth that they were able to go to convey such, like, character emotions for several characters in the show, that even Annie, that we haven't seen in God knows how long. Like, I'm just dumbfounded and at a loss for words for that.
This episode almost, like, brought back this, like, I know we're still watching this show, and so it can't truly be like an Attack on Titan nostalgia feeling, but it almost brings back these feelings that I had when we first started the show, where I would so heavily break apart and dissect dialogue from characters and imagery and placements of things and flow, and this episode, like, had it all. Like, I basically had my jaw on the floor for the first half, being like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're getting this content right now from seeing what was truly going on when Reiner, Berthold, and Annie were candidates, to when they even started the mission, to getting... Yes, we got a lot on Reiner this episode, but I almost feel like I know Annie, like, actually now. Like, Annie was still kind of like, what is going on in that girl's head a little bit? Like, how does she actually feel about any of this? Because I could have come up with my own ideas of how she felt, but I feel like we have way more evidence now in the what is Annie's, like, personal character and her, like, character development, like, sheet now. Like, we can, like, start to actually really piece together, like, how she feels and about everything and anything.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think we got into, like, a sense of momentum with hype and action and fighting. But the thing that really put AOT into a league of its own for me early on was the writing and the dialogue. And oh my god, they utilized it here. I feel like I don't feel like the Aaron reveal was even supposed to be like a mic drop moment, because I don't think it was. I think it was
so more focused on what he was saying.
Well, yeah, and I think that it was probably intended to at least have some understanding that is him, or probably might be him last episode. Like, I think, like, they weren't, like, it wasn't like the Ryan or the Berthold about to bite his finger scene, like, seasons ago. It wasn't like, stop it on this frame. There was attention brought to it, right? And I feel like that was intentional in itself, because, like, the dialogue was what was important. The lines that were said, and it made sense.
And who they were coming from. I think, other than loving to dissect dialogue, I think one of the other most fascinating and exciting parts of dialogue in this show is who's saying it, what do they mean by what they're saying, who's hearing it, and how are they viewing how are they hearing it, and what context are they thinking of it in? Because obviously we had two characters here who've lived very, very different lives, and when something is said, their memory is calling upon way different things. And so they're on the same page about maybe on the surface level of what's being said, but both of them are having very different journeys underneath with what's being said.
Yeah.
And I love that so much.
I connect it back to like I keep seeing like a cycle in itself, like Eren, Reiner, and then Falco all in this kind of never-ending cycle of the same emotions of no matter what you do, there's going to be like a hell that you're living in. And that's the life that Falco is getting ready to live. Mm-hmm. That's the life that Reiner just lived and is continuously living. And Eren is also living that life, but he is choosing to try to take it a step further to strive for something that is unknown, something that might be hope or it might be another hell, but it's that step forward that's trying to break a cycle almost. And obviously nobody knows where that leads.
Did you ever think that you were, if I was to ask you, hey Ben, which character do you think is going to be the true like parallel to Eren? Like, I think I would have at first been like, oh, well, Zeke, because both of them had their dad do the same thing, and now they're just charging ahead with this mission, you know? I would not have picked Reiner as being like the true kind of the actual parallel to Eren in personality, in feelings and worries and life that they're living.
In its own weird way, seeing the tragic backstory of Reiner and being able to fully sympathize with him, because we already were before, but having like showing us this civilization in Marley and how the Eldians are striving to get this power, the whole thing, everything that's been told to us, it almost like puts it under a filter of how like an existential filter, like of how mundane and repetitive and meaningless a lot of this is for a lot of these people, and there is no change, and like it's just horrible pointless routine, and everybody's suffering. Like most people that we are seeing are suffering in one way or another, like, you know, and to have this whole existential feel, I don't know. I feel like Eren right now. Like I feel like okay, I came over and saw how fucked up the situation is here too. Like in my mind, Eren in the past 4 years has gone over to Marley, is there learning about all of these. Like I wrote down Eren learning the emotions of humans. Like at the end of the day, these Eldians, the people in Marley, he's talking to a kid who is in line to become the next Reiner, but he's having a crush on a girl and wants to take that duty from her to protect her, and that to realize that it's not just one, it's not black or white. The whole thing we've talked about this entire series, it's not black and white, and Eren's realizing that, and I don't know how he feels other than what he said at the end, that he's going to strive for something that may be another hell or it may be hope, and he's just going to push for it, because not doing anything is just falling into that continuous cycle of depression. I don't know. Like,
they chose the most, I would say the most universal, humanizing kind of feeling is that of care and love. And so to have Falco's kind of super, we all are the same, actually, being, I'm a kid who's doing this thing, but I have a crush on this girl and I want to protect her and make sure she's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's so just the connection that can happen there, the humanizing that happens when love and care and affection are at play is great. I'm just so floored still, and coming up with like thoughts and feelings is difficult.
Well, no, I completely agree. I wrote down at some point in season 1, Reiner's like a big brother.
Yeah, we did feel like he had such a big bro energy to Eren, and now that we know that he saw himself in Eren, and that's why he
Dude,
helped Eren.
the whole thing, one of the strongest scenes in this entire episode was, I believe, which is something we already saw, Eren falling and asking Reiner how him and Mikasa does it, and Reiner affirming him there and motivating him. But while that's happening, we're seeing the the flashes with the gun, and I'm
No wonder
dumbfounded.
he wants to kill himself. I
Yeah.
mean, like, he's having to still portray this air of being this person that he is not. He said that Reiner is dead. We got that line. We got him basically announcing the death of who he truly is. And that's why the struggle that we see unfold truly happens, is because he decides that he the person that he is does not deserve to be alive.
Yeah.
And that is why he fights it so much, because he doesn't believe that that person deserves any time or attention or to even exist. And of course he wants to just he's living a living hell, because he had to come face to face with the realization that these people that they were choosing to blame to maybe feel better about themselves, because it always feels better if you have someone to blame, are just like them. And he has to keep perpetuating this lie now that he knows the truth every day, to see more and more people and kids maybe take the same path he did, maybe even go through the same emotional turmoil that he and his friends had to. He lost Berthold and Annie and Marcel. He is like, what is that? What's it called? The effect when you're the survivor's guilt?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
he was the one that shouldn't have gone, that wasn't supposed to go, who believed that his real self was better off dead, and is the only survivor, really, to come back to Marley.
Yeah, there's so many different layers, you know. I'm also dumbfounded, speechless. I can't find the right words, but Reiner being the one to tell Eren, don't give up, keep getting up, keep pushing forward, keep going, right? And then obviously that flashing towards him loading the gun, that he's trying to stop himself from pushing forward, right? He's like, it's so conflicting, because yes, Reiner here is like reminded and then stays alive to teach Falco, to train them, right? But what are you doing? You're just training them to repeat the same cycle that you were a part of, that might put Falco one day in a chair and a gun in his mouth. You're not
right. Yes, right. You're so right. Like, on the surface, you want to be there for these kids, but is putting them in the same future situation that you're currently in doing anything for them?
Well, I think that him about to pull the trigger here almost might have been his like perspective of the situation, that it might be like this is his escape from that cycle. He's trying to run away from it, and then gets reminded of having to be a part of it again through this bump in the wall. Like, part of me is like, God, what a fucking tragic character Reiner is the only escape for him and true victory for him at this point, death, because the 13-year timeline is already applied to him. He's already running out of time. He has, I don't think he knows what to do with himself anymore. I don't think...
He wants, like, the autonomy. He wants it seems like, he only has, like, maybe a year left, but he's about to pull the trigger in his mouth so he doesn't have to go back to the walls. He's choosing here, or attempting to choose, his own death. Like, he's faced with death. And you do hear this about people who maybe are, like, given, like, a certain amount of time to live, that they might want to choose something else for themselves so that they feel like they had a say. Which fits into what Eren says at the very end, which is that the something that happens to you isn't always your choice. That the choices matter, and people getting to make their own choices to feel truly free is one of the biggest themes in this show, is choice and freedom.
Yeah.
And I am truly terrified in a way for what will happen to Reiner and his psyche, even if we're already seeing him at this like lowest a human can get, and now he's gonna have to go back to the walls. I'm curious.
I don't think he's going back to the walls.
You don't think so?
Aaron's here.
Okay. Oh, well, that's so true. Oh, you know what we said at the beginning of this episode that was like, how do we get the candidates to still be in the story?
Yeah.
Because we were spending so much time and attention on them, and then we're just gonna like leave them for this mission. You're so right. What is Aaron? Aaron's not just there to get like reconnaissance, learn some stuff.
God, this show. Like, I'm already like trying to deal with the questions I see them trying to get me to answer later on. Like, what's it gonna mean when Aaron's going to be the one when Aaron's gonna be the one killing these kids and bringing the war to their front? What does that mean? Because Reiner has these kids that he's trying to protect for this society, but isn't Aaron just killing these kids, or Aaron just going about it in a violent way, just perpetuating, continuing that society? What is Aaron's goal here? Is Aaron trying to get a different outcome by doing more of the same, or is he going to try to do something different that we don't know yet?
Well, okay, so we don't truly know because, yes, we can make maybe his guesses of if Aaron was working by himself, what he might choose to do, but it is also safe to say that he might have a plan that was created by the mind of someone else, like Armin or Hanji, and they would probably choose to maybe try to do something different than Aaron as a character would. And so I have no clue, because I don't know which character is he being influenced by himself, or is he being influenced and following the strategy of someone else.
All I'm saying is that on two sides of the water here, we have two authorities who don't actually have authority, and those being the Marlians and Historia and the government over there. Because in my mind, the people who are actually going to decide or make these decisions are the ones with the founding Titan power and the Orangutan. Like, obviously Reiner has power too here, but like, this is...
Does the fate of these two societies really come down to the Jaeger family?
I'd say like, so.
The fate of the world as either of these places know it really are in the hands of two people born from the same man.
Obviously, Mikasa and Levi have power there and like a foot in that argument with like how scared Zeke is of them. But I think that like I'm already thinking about how it's gonna get very complex and complicated when I hear what Aaron's thinking.
Right. Just as I have no clue what Zeke is actually really truly. I feel like that character is a walking plot twist in the making, and I cannot say which way I think the plot will twist, because I think that's the point, is that we are supposed to literally have no clue what this character is going to do ever.
Yeah. I
have no clue. I don't know what this character eats for breakfast. I don't know what he's going to do tomorrow.
I feel like I'm in the same place with Aaron, because it has been 4 years. We don't
know him anymore.
I can't wait. Okay, because I want to start going through the episode a little bit. I can't wait to get back to his dialogue at the end, because it is very clear he is thinking one way confidently. Like, he's like a wise old man at this point, and we don't know what happened.
We got confirmation, I guess, of one thing from our intro. That we were like, Armin probably has memories from Bertholdt and would understand what happens to the warrior candidates and all of that jazz, so that was confirmation, I guess, that why it would be easier for them to concoct a infiltration plan, and why I guess Aaron would maybe have such an understanding of this world that he was getting into and be able to connect with this warrior candidate that's sitting on a bench with him. Okay, let's go through the episode.
I guess starting out, we had the flashback of Reiner and everybody in the play yard talking with Porco?
Yes.
Porco? I cannot believe was blind to Zeke even
Okay,
being
so
there.
like beards and facial hair in the show are like just kind of funky because I thought Zeke was way older than Berthold and Reiner last season,
Yeah.
but he just had a beard, so.
Well, he's a little older.
Well, he's like a teenager here,
Yeah.
and there he's probably like 17 or 15, 16 here,
Yeah.
and the kids are like 12.
Yeah, agreed. I
So
agree with you.
he's still not, like, I was thinking like they were 15, 16, and he's like 30 something, you know, with the beard.
Yeah.
But that is truly not the case.
I just didn't think we were going to see focus, like an actual flashback like this heavy, this amount of time on
This amount to even get to know Porco's character.
Yeah.
Like, and I thought, oh, maybe we'll get some flashback, but I didn't think it would be to truly like see anything of Marcel, this character we never really got to meet because they were dead before any of this started.
And then just Reiner, I guess. I never thought of Reiner as somebody who wasn't the person to be picked, or like a leader, a very strong.
He always made sense to us as like, oh, of course he'd be picked.
Yeah.
And I thought that during his time in the walls is when, you know, the split would happen between the struggle of, oh, I'm here and I'm dedicated to this, and oh shoot, I kind of like these people. You know, I thought that happened in his time there and getting to know these people, but he was already struggling from before they even got there with like his identity and not wanting to feel the way that he feels and be the type of person that he is. Even before they came to Paradis and before Marcel got eaten, he was already struggling with not liking himself for how he was and wanting to be different.
Well, is hope inherently wrong in this world? Is having hope, if you have hope, are you setting yourself up for failure in this world?
Are you being ignorant?
We had, like, what I take as, like, Aaron, we're gonna get there, like, talking about hope at the end of the episode, but then we have, like, Reiner and his mom talking about hope here, and Reiner's mom, like, her hope for being accepted as a Marleyan with Reiner's biological father, and that hope being something that was never a potential reality. Is it expectation? Is it hope, like, that you can't have something that will never even, like, have a chance of succeeding and living?
They did great. Like, the person that wrote this did great things with the choices they made for Reiner's father and his feelings and actions in that brief little moment. Because he could have just been like, oh yeah, I never cared about you guys. But there were tears. That man was frantic.
Yeah.
That man was like going through this emotional roller coaster
I'm gonna die. My
of
family's
fear,
gonna die. Yeah.
sadness. Like, it was clear to me in that moment, like, think about it. I never thought about like the idea you fell in love and had an intimate moment with someone that if anyone knew, you and your family are dead.
Yep.
But I think it's safe to say that he probably did love Reiner's mom.
Maybe. I don't know. Once we get to that point, I'll be able to see his expression again. But I could also see his just, oh, I hooked up with this girl you know.
I could not see it as just like merely.
I have to see it again.
He might try to tell himself it was that.
I have to see it again.
Okay.
But lastly here, we just got Annie doing her Annie thing.
Annie doing her Annie
crushing
thing.
bugs. I feel that.
That says a lot.
You know what though? I
would
never
just like walk up to to kill a bug that's not even bothering you is something. There's something there.
I think that what this episode's done for me is tell me that there is something there in regards to Annie. I think that this is Annie's doorway back into the show. I think that it starts here with this episode. We got a lot about Annie throughout this episode, but I also think that her squashing bugs and doing her own thing is definitely telling us something. Mm-hmm. I think that I think Annie's another narrative here. I think Annie's another perspective here that we don't know yet. I think we don't know who Annie's father is. we didn't learn here what the memories we already got of Annie were. I wonder what Annie's perspective is in this whole thing, because I think it's a little more complex than it lets on here.
I feel like I was already maybe feeling that Annie's character didn't necessarily want to be doing any of this. And I think I have more validation that she did not, like everyone else, she did not choose this path for herself. She doesn't necessarily want to be doing it. No wonder she's an aloof character that avoids attachment.
Yeah.
Like, she's trying to just go through the motions because she doesn't want to be there, but she knows she has to, and so she's not going to get emotionally attached to anyone.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know her. I feel like I do not know Annie at all yet. And I'm excited that at the possibility that I might learn. But that leads us all into like the Avengers intro of Attack on Titan and why these characters and people were chosen for their respective power-ups, for their for their Titan powers, armored powers, colossal powers, jaw power,
Titan.
cart power.
Cart power!
I thought it was interesting that they have like drawings of the Titans, and I'm like, are they like they just see what this person turns into with it and then draw it, or do they have like preconceptions of how they're gonna look before they transform
like
for the first time?
Some traits that carry over, because if you think about like, I don't think so like Kruger's Titan definitely looked a lot like Eren Titan.
Yeah.
You know, I think the pointy ears were a thing. I think the green kind of glow of the eyes, that menacing, a very kind of build. Grisha, we didn't really get like amazing shots of Grisha necessarily to like say that same comparison.
Yeah.
But I think there were a few comparisons in how they look. I guess the cart Titan is always bipedal.
Yeah, but the superior judgment is really interesting to me. Trust me, if you told me that one Titan has superior judgment 10 episodes ago, I would not tell you it was P-Boy, you know? Like, I think that that's more of a character we're going to see.
What judgment is Peak doing?
Does that mean
with the
that
carts?
Does superior judgment imply that they are going to be one of the most difficult people to face in regards to the people of Marley? Like, obviously they're an Eldian, but like, are they actually do they actually have Marley in their best interest more than anybody? If this is what the high brass of Marley is saying about them?
Yeah, are they a real good critical thinker?
I don't know. I think, oh God, I love just like people have like drawn out and made notes about this. This is so neat.
Yeah. We got that Berthold, I think it was something said later on in the episode, but it fits with what they say about Berthold, is that he could immediately wield the Colossal Titan well.
Yeah.
Which I think I love that like dynamic with the fact that Berthold seemed to be more sweet and meek, to be able to immediately wield this like enormous power. I thought they were experimenting in this shot, like in this scene at first where we're seeing all of them in action. I thought that this was like one of those like those nuke cities, you know, where they set up all the houses with the fake people and the dummies, and then they put off bombs to see how it worked. That's what I thought. And then the Marlians that are in the back are like, yeah, they just wiped out as if this was already like something in war.
Yep.
Like we're on a real mission.
A god of destruction.
Look at that shot of like Berthold in the distance with the heat around him and them watching from far away with binoculars.
I wonder who their predecessors were. I want to see that whole thing happen. That whole thing happen. I want to see every single form of Titans that ever was. I want to see every armored Titan. I want to see every colossal Titan. You know what I mean?
I didn't even think about I was always thinking, as I thought that Zeke was way older at first, I also thought that Zeke would have had the power for longer, especially with being like this commander, you know, over them, this war chief.
When did Zeke get it?
He got it at the same time as them,
did
basically. He? Well, he only has a year left, and they only really have a year left.
But
he still has a candidate thing around his
He
arm.
wasn't in the parade with them.
But so he probably got it right before they did.
Gotcha.
But it was probably within the same year or two.
Yeah.
Because the shot of earlier when Porco's still involved, I believe they all still have, like, I think it's yellow before they get, like, chosen for this honorary Marleyan thing.
Yeah.
And then I guess they could switch to red when they're honorary Marleyans. I'm like, what perks do you even really get? Because it's obvious that your family would still be a threat to your father. You couldn't actually still be together.
Yeah. So what vibe were you getting?
It's the panic, the like over the top emotional from the father. There's just so much to it that it just felt more than just like dismissive and like, I mean, it could be that he's worried about his family's death more and that's why he's so emotional about it.
Well, that's what I take it as him being like selfish and about himself and his family, and he's like, don't get anywhere fucking close to me.
Which could be
like
true, but that doesn't mean he didn't have a relationship with Reiner's mother as just a hookup where he didn't feel anything.
I feel like I didn't get enough to confirm it, though.
Well, yeah, there's never going to be any confirmation about that.
About this obscure character.
Yeah,
in
no,
Reiner's
we can only
dad.
just like go off of like how heavy the emotions and feelings were there, and
I took that as like how emotional and heavy it would be to even think of the idea of having conflicting bloodlines in a child.
Well, think if that was already a choice that was going to threaten your life, do you think he really would have made that choice with just a hookup?
He might not have known.
But she was there with like a work visa. I believe in either his area or in the father's shop or something.
Yeah.
I think he would have known. She has to wear the
What
arm
if she
thing.
wasn't? Who knows?
I just think that is just if your whole family could die or you could be hanged by having relations with this person, I think there would have to be more, even if it's your teenager mind and you were like, had a crush, there would have to be more than just like, I want to have sex.
We don't know this man.
I don't know this man's life and I'm never going to know, but I feel like that's a lot to risk for just no emotions involved intimate relationship.
Hey man, people are crazy.
Clearly.
So once they're on the island of Paradis and we get them around the campfire, like this is when we initially hear Bert voicing, I guess, concern or doubt in that will the king really not use the founding titan even if we break the wall, which kind of sounds like
They're hoping he will. Maybe they're scared. Well, I think it could be double. Like, they hope he will. I could see Berthold being like, I'm scared that he will because I don't want to die, but
Yes.
I'm scared that he won't because all those people in the walls are going to die if he doesn't.
Yes, it probably is both. I initially took it with more of, I think he's scared, but also he's realizing for the first time the gravity of the situation he's in and how little that they are sure of. I think that he might be realizing for the first time everything bad I have ever heard confirmed is all hearsay and words, and none of them have actually been in the position that I'm in, which is very close to them.
And then that's, like, I feel like right after that is when Reiner brings up, are you doubting Marleyan's research?
Yeah,
like,
trust Marley's research. That's right, we can't turn back. Tomorrow we reach the walls, and then... Are you having second thoughts about killing the devils? I am dumbfounded at how they managed to write Reiner's character here, because he is the one who is most steadfast and not doubting anything. He's the most okay
with doing this and this plan and going it, even at the beginning, because he has this grand. I don't think the others have as grand of a wish as he does in this moment.
Well,
he wants his family together. Like, he wants to be a Marleyan. Like,
I think he's the most naive. And I think that it's very innocent and very pure.
Very dreamy.
To be, yes, very dreamy and hopey. To think that the world that you're living in is one with a simplicity that it's as simple as black and white, and that these are the bad guys and you're the good guys.
And everything Marley has said to you is completely real.
And you're going to be the hero of your own story, and those are the villains, undoubtedly, no questions asked. And I think everybody else here is like realizing how gray it is, you know?
Maybe they always felt that way. And
Yeah.
that's why they were all more quiet. I would say these 3 characters seem to be the ones that just kind of put their heads down and just kind of like, it seems like Porco and Reiner were probably always getting at it with each other and being more boisterous.
Yeah.
And then everyone else was kind of just put their head down, do what they have to do as warrior candidates. Like,
I think Marcel is probably like one of the smartest people we've seen in the series in regards to like his mental and what he's thinking and like where he's at for the age he's at. Like he, I think, has realized the situation, knows that it's inevitable that people have to be chosen.
and that some will die,
Some will die. And
whether in 13 years or sooner.
a lot of people could see this as like full of glory like Reiner is right now. But people are actually going to die, and this is actually going to shorten your life. So what is he going to do but to do everything within his power to elongate his own brother's life, and hopefully does not put his life on trajectory that theirs is right now. And unfortunately, as we know, it is back on that path. But man, this is hard to watch for Reiner's sake, you know? Knowing that he wasn't chosen for anything that he
was
had
chosen
done.
because a candidate that was already respected was hyping him up and putting down his own brother.
Yeah. Then Ymir comes out of the ground.
We got Zeke doing that same thing in the last episode. He was hyping up himself and putting down Colt in order to get to be able to do this mission.
Yeah. That's true. God. I wonder if we're ever going to see Colt with the Beast Titan. Part of me feels like that's going to be hard to actually see. But so what happened here after Marcel is eaten? I'm assuming they all just start running.
They all just ran.
Imagine none of them turn into their Titan forms there.
Yeah. Kind of idiotic if you could so easily like switch into your Titan form. Like,
so what do you think the reason for not sending Zeke was? Like from the Marleyan point of view?
I think, gosh, I don't know. It sounds so idiotic on their part. I mean, even one of the commanders, I think it's like Magus or something is his name, is like, are we really gonna send a bunch of children to do this like giant mission?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, really? Are you really just gonna send, like, clearly they all, like we just said, they're children. They all just ran away from a Titan out of fear when they all could have turned into stronger Titans.
Yeah. I get you. I would imagine that it would be for protection at home, right? If anybody's invading, the best Titan for that would be somebody who can throw things, right? But
I guess maybe if we saw that glimpse of all of them practicing by taking out some enemy,
yeah.
I guess we could say that they were already having issues with war beforehand, and so maybe that's why they didn't want to that's why they kept Peak with Zeke, and maybe they were just like a 2-person team.
Yeah.
The Cart Titan, well, we saw that they were already a team, so
what do you do here, right? Marcel was just eaten. You have these powers, that I guess, all your relatives, like everybody at home is relying on you to come back, right? Whether it's for their own sake, being the Marleyan people and like trying to just have this power, but also your own family. You don't want your own family to be killed. You want to protect this place. What do you do here?
That's a really good question. I just wrote down how long is the journey, because I think Annie had a good point of how about we go find the person who just ate Marcel, we take them home so that we can make sure that power is still a Marley power.
Yeah.
I think that they would get off fine by Marley if they made sure to bring the power back.
Yeah, maybe. Or that they like had risked it in the first place. It didn't come back with enough. Why even risk these idiots again? They're just Eldians. Pick the next ones, Like I definitely
You're right about that. They could just have like chosen new candidates for all of them and just started the mission over.
Yeah, especially because of how easy some people can control it,
Well, I don't know, because Magath did bring up in the first episode how much money and time went into training the candidates.
Yeah.
And Gabby, and like that was like one of like Gabby's like kind of fighting points was like, he was like, do you know how much money we put into training you and you're just gonna run off and possibly die?
Yeah.
So they do value how much time that they've put into these kids.
Yeah.
Time is money.
Yeah. I am wondering, look, what do you do? Like, what would you do in that situation? If you are Marcel, or Annie, not Marcella, because then you'd be dead. If you're Annie in this situation, or another person there, just like insert another person with the Titan powers, and you're a kid, if you're looking out for yourself, are you doing what Reiner did and chose to do, that we're going to stay here, try to complete the mission? Or are you going to try to blend in with this other culture you don't know? Are you trying to go home? Like, what's the right answer here? You're asking kids to just, without doubting anything, fight for a country that you are a slave within.
Marcel was the unspoken leader.
Yeah.
So it's not just like they're all
There's a spoken leader too.
Or, I mean, yeah, they all kind of have voiced that. What are we gonna do without him? He was kind of like the glue. He was the leader of us. And I really loved Annie's line about like, you're gonna intimidate us to save your own ass, because she's putting a lot of blame on him here.
Like, because he wasn't calm in the initial situation. She said that if you were calm, we could have brought home Marcel and Jaw. And then said, but you've got no problem intimidating us to save your own ass now, like, now that a Titan's not here about to eat us.
But he's also, I guess, guilty by association, because he wasn't even supposed to be the armored Titan anyway. And it was obviously because of what Marcel did that this even happened. So would you, if you lost the person you thought was going to be kind of the leader that kept you together, and you also in turn at the same time find out that one of the people on this mission with you isn't even the strongest candidate to be with you, and you probably knew that all along, your hope in this mission not just resulting with all of you dying is tanked.
I think that Annie has a massive part in this story to play. I don't know what. I don't know if Annie's actually part of like a royal family kind of vibe. I don't know if her father was somebody really important kind of vibe. I don't know if none of that, but she's going to make herself important for whatever reason type beat. I don't know which route we're going, but her lines here just like scream to me like, oh my God, I don't know anything about, I want to know her so bad, because like, honorary Marley and my ass. She never
believed any of it.
Marleyans, Eldians, they're all liars. Everyone only thinks about themselves. I'm like, oh my God, you've tapped into like the truth of the matter.
She already was thinking this way before even entering the walls or meeting anyone.
Yeah.
She already was like, these people are all just lying for their own selfish
I'm no
reasons.
different. I've got to get home alive. She's the most like self-aware character in this entire story at this point in this episode. The only person I can relate her to after this episode is probably Eren. If you feel guilty, just die. Take all the blame and die. Which I'm like, oh my God, he's trying to kill himself currently in the episode too.
You know how sometimes when you see flashbacks, it's because a character is thinking about that. So right after this flashback sequence ends, we get what Reiner is currently doing. And it's safe to say he's recalling all of these things on repeat in his mind at all times, wondering, how could I have done things differently? Was any of it worth it? Like, so many questions he's asking himself.
Reiner's dead. If we need Marcel, then I'll be Marcel. Like, I'm trying to think back, because we get further development this episode of Reiner, but I'm trying to think, as Reiner's characters developed within himself, like as we knew him, and then we saw his characters break on top of the wall, like with Bert and Eren and everyone. Were they different versions of himself, or were any of them Marcel / were some of them Marcel inspired?
that's a safer, I think that's like the more correct route to go, is he cannot truly be someone that he is not. He can only be a fake version of them.
Sure.
As close as he can surmise they are truly like. Because Marcel had an inner world. Marcel was a complex person, as everyone is. And for Reiner to be Marcel, he's only picking and choosing some main kind of points of how he views Marcel to be, which isn't even truly Marcel.
Yeah.
It's just acting in the image of. And it reminds me of a manga that you just finished reading. Bloom into You.
Yeah. A bit. Maybe. I don't know. Because I think that I think Reiner is lost in it and doesn't have the awareness like during the moment, during those seasons.
Well, he's broken.
Yeah, exactly. And
he's like emotionally, like, he at 12 years old, completely traumatized, like he very, very, very messed up. He, unfortunately, very well written character. I feel so much for this character, and it is so hard to watch how this character's like kind of life has progressed, and it makes me, I think Reiner's one of the main kind of focal points for me wanting to have a rewatch of this show at some point.
Yeah.
Because I want to see this character progression and switching kind of with that knowledge.
Yeah, agreed.
Of him going from the Reiner that's dead to Marcel, the Reiner that's dead to Marcel. And anytime he went to Marcel, the looks that we've seen painted on Bert and Annie's faces are that of just sadness, fear, worry.
Dude, Marcel's like the most morally like correct character I've ever seen in Attack on Titan.
He kept apologizing, and we didn't know why at first.
Well, like, let's be real. Marcel saved his brother, but also doomed another kid by doing it. And then in his last action, saved the kid that he doomed by saving his brother. Like, okay, but Marcel.
He probably morally felt okay with that because he knew how much Reiner wanted this.
Yeah, but he also saved him at the end. You know? He was the one who risked his own life to save Reiner.
I would want to be more like Marcel.
Yeah. What would Marcel do?
What would Marcel
WWMD.
do?
What would Marcel do? To see Reiner...
Sounds like a medical website.
What would Marcel do? WWMD. But I never in my 4 seasons of Attack on Titan thought we were actually going to get to see the perspectives of Annie, Reiner, and Bertholdt as those things were happening in the degree that we did.
And how they actually ended up infiltrating.
This is when I didn't think that we would see Annie waking up to see Eren, Armin, and Mikasa across the room.
Like, of course they could so easily infiltrate after such a big, giant refugees coming into different parts of the wall, fleeing event of traumatized people. Of course they could just seamlessly enter in.
Dude, this is one of those times where I'm feeling weird, and I feel like we're about to see this scene again 10 episodes from now. I think that this is like a fucky scene. I think that Annie knows something we don't. I think that when Annie looks over and just happens to see Eren, Armin, and Mikasa, sure, it could be like a coincidence, happenstance, just to let the audience know where exactly these characters are. But it's Annie who's looking over at them. And I'm like, what does Annie know? Annie, during her fight with Eren in the woods, that was weird. She made some weird looks. We got their weird connection in the fight at the end of season 1. What was Annie told? What's Annie's mission?
Annie just woke up in a room with having the knowledge that they just did something that she wasn't a part of, and now she has to suffer the consequences of.
Yeah.
She is even more so. It's like you're just hammering home the theme of Annie has no freaking choice, or no, like, she can't make any of these decisions. Like, she was knocked out during this whole big initial event. Like, what guilt or change in how she might feel compared to, like, no wonder you could say that maybe she feels differently than Reiner and Berthold do in the guilt department, because she was unconscious at the time of the biggest effect on all of these people's lives.
Yeah.
But yet she's still, by association and by the fact that this was her mission, guilty.
Yeah.
And so it's a different guilt. It's a different feelings that she's feeling and a different way to get there. So that's just very interesting for her character.
What do you think the whole purpose behind the character that left behind his own horse and opened the window to see the Titan, and then him recounting that story to Annie, Bert, and Reiner? Like, what do you think his purpose was in this episode?
Left behind his horse.
Yeah, isn't that?
He left behind 3 kids.
Or left on his horse, I meant.
Oh, okay.
But I ran away on my horse, and he left behind 3 kids, the ages of those 3, and then he ended up killing himself and hanging himself, right? What do you think that because Bert brings it up later, and he like asks,
why did he tell us?
Yeah. What do you think that was for?
It reminds me of a similar thoughts and feelings to the final charge at the end of the 3rd season, where it's like how people will remember you. And I think that it's a common occurring theme for someone to be way more open and giving about their past and their mistakes before they end up killing themselves.
Yeah.
So it didn't come as a super surprise to me, like, to have that event happen and then the next.
I don't think any of the Marlians, Eldians, or any of the Eldians sent here with the power of the Titans were aware or we understand that they were aware that they were going to show up and watch Eldians be afraid of themselves. Was anybody told that all these Eldians were deathly terrified of themselves in Titan forms?
Yeah, what was Berthold's
them?
reaction to seeing Dina walk up behind him?
Yeah.
Was he scared that she was going to focus on him? Was he like, oh my gosh, why is the Titan walking into the walls? Because do they even know how pure Titans would react to Eldians yet?
Do they know that Eldians are dying by these Titans? Do they know that they're tortured by them themselves? It's kind of a mind fuck to think, okay, these are the enemies, these are the people who've like ruined everything, and these are the devils, but we show up and they're living in fear.
Right, and it would further call into question what Berthold has already been questioning, is the king really doing nothing for his people?
Yeah. I think that it's a lot to ask somebody to just ignore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered and nobody's answering them.
Yes, and one of the biggest, there's questions and no one's answering them, is the scene that you have pulled up on the screen.
Which is Kenny and Annie, and I am fucking lost, bro.
What?
I'm not I get it, and I get what they're doing with the scene. It's meant for what it is and not really too much more. But I think it's something that I had never even, like a crossover I'd never thought would happen. You know?
And, like, no wonder Annie was, like, the most aloof and non-friendly. Like, she was also doing these secret night missions.
Why the fuck did Annie go into the Interior Police?
Did she already start her path in doing so by these encounters with Kenny? Is that what? Because she was very adamant that needed to be the path for her. And is this her setting that into motion by having this interaction?
Like, I'm thinking about it. She went to the Interior Police. That made it so that she was able to try to kidnap Aaron, right? Mm-hmm. So did she have any other motive doing that?
Was that the extent of it? So that someone wasn't around
and they could complete the mission to go home, or was she trying to make a choice for herself at that point as well? When do you think the moment they found out Aaron had the founding Titan power was? Was it when Aaron first turned into a Titan?
Weren't they still... Okay, so when they were on the treetop, weren't they still questioning whether Aaron even had the No. When did they realize that Aaron was the coordinate, had the coordinate?
Well, back on the treetops, we were talking all about the coordinate.
Yeah, like, how do we... Oh, I think Reiner even said, if it's not you, then we'll just discard of you or something like that.
But either way, they're taking back somebody with the power of a Titan. They're taking back the attack Titan at the very least.
Yeah.
Which
calls in, I think that exact thought calls one of our questions into play, which is, how did Zeke even know that Grisha had actually infiltrated Paradis himself and created a family with his own Titan power, the attack Titan?
Yeah. Well, I think that they must have known that the founding Titan was within Eren, because in episode 6 of season 2, Reiner said, our primary goal is to ensure that all of humanity was wiped out, but there's no need for that now.
Well, he could have either been the attack... I don't think it is definite that... Well, that is a scene after the tree scene.
No.
That's on the walls when he says, like, who they are, right?
Doesn't the tree scene happen after that? Yeah.
Oh, the tree scene happens after that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, he could be thinking because Eren has the attack Titan.
Yeah.
And wouldn't you want that back? So in that whole time, of course they'd be like, does he have the coordinate or does he not? Because he could either be the founding Titan or he could be the attack Titan. There's two that he could be. Because they already know Ymir, right? They already know that Ymir has the jaw Titan now. Mm-hmm. So Eren is either one of these two that is missing. And so he's either the coordinate or is not. But still, if they brought him back, they'd be helping Marley.
God, rewatching this show must be fucking like...
I know, it's gonna be fun.
It's literally... I'd rewatch this show just for Reiner. Like, in season 2, episode 6, he said that he needed to face the consequences of his actions. Holy shit. Like, oh my god.
Honestly, just rewatch show for Reiner at this point.
He called it a false peace. See about promotions later. I know that was when he was
the true main character?
I don't know. It could be. It's so interesting to look back and, like, I don't know. I think that Annie, though, definitely is going to come back in a big way. I think that's what this episode has done for me more than anything. But her interacting with Kenny was, God damn it, I never thought this would happen.
I don't know if I agree with you in the come back in a big way. I think we will learn what has come of her, but I don't know if I'm like fully, yeah, it's gonna be huge. Because I'm like, this could be slightly attempting to mislead me on that.
To me, I feel like it's just, obviously Annie as a character is a loose end, like, right now.
Yeah.
But narratively right now, she's a loose end too for me. Not just her as a character, like her character and place in the story, which leads me to believe that she's coming back in this narrative.
What would she even choose to do in these current circumstances?
And this is what I'm saying. We don't know what she would choose to do because we don't know her. We have not seen knowing what we know now, everything, Marley, Eldians, knowing what we know now, where the fuck was she training? Who the fuck was her dad? These are big questions that we haven't had to ask similar questions of in the form of Reiner, Berthold, Marcel.
Seems like she was being trained before she even went to training. Like actual warrior candidate training. Seems like her dad had been training her.
What if she is a successful Zeke? What if Zeke was the attempted child and at this whole plan of somebody infiltrating the government and helping for this whole side? Zeke turned his parents in. That didn't work. Zeke's older than Annie. The next form of that, okay, I have this child. I'm an actual restorationist. I'm going to send this child within the ranks and try to have a deep cover agent in that sense.
There could have been other people that had the same idea that Grisha and Dina. The mother.
Yeah, no.
There could be other people, other restorationists that had the same idea. I don't think it's a crazy idea to have popped into Grisha's head.
I think Annie had her own things going on the whole time. She was crushing bugs, thinking about how everybody is fucked up, and she needs to, she knows Eldians and Marlians are both fucked up, and she has been told this by somebody.
She just hates people.
I think that she probably had somebody whispering in her ear, just like Zeke had somebody whispering in his. It's tragic, dude. And I love the callback to Berthold's sleeping positions and how that justifies what the weather's going to be, or determines what the weather's going to be. It's great. It's fantastic. And then just knowing that we were none the wiser sitting in cabins, you and I, just a part of the squad when Marco was still alive.
Yeah.
And Reiner, Berthold, and Annie were out by logs having conversations.
I think when in that like log scene where she keeps referencing the people that they are now meeting as Reiner's friends, I think what she's doing there is trying to further distance herself from the idea that she also might think of these people with some sort of care or like validation that they are not devils.
Yeah.
So she's like further separating herself, but I think she's also like saying this to him in a way of like reflection on herself of like, how are we going to kill these people, and how are we going to, what she says something like, are you really going to do all of this to them? They're going to die, a lot of them. And it's because she's thinking about that. She's looking at these people. All of those scenes of Annie training, like helping Eren and learning the fight stance, all of those scenes with Annie being aloof, she's constantly thinking about the reality of these people that she's watching act like normal freaking people that are gonna die because of all of this. She's the most aware of this situation of any of them.
But she's the most aware, but is also doing, like, she's very aware. Why is she like kind of training Eren? No? Like, or like teaching Eren, or so connected to Eren. Like,
I mean, she, even in once she joins it's not the interior police, right? Because that's like
it's the military police.
The military police. The interior police are like the secret one. Once she joins the military police, she is still thinking on Eren's character fondly, it seems. Like this is the type of person that maybe irritates her, but she thinks could get things done. And she obviously looks at Marlowe and thinks these things even more. And it's like, I really just want to know, like, what was she hoping was the outcome? Like, what was her true desire? Because the motions she was going through and the motions that Berthold and Reiner were going through were all, their mission. But, like, that has nothing to do with how they truly feel and what their own personal desires are.
Yeah.
She just wanted to go home. I think Annie just wanted this all to be over and not to have happened at all. And this whole time, even before the mission started, she just wanted to go home.
She did just want to go home. She also said, there's a quote in episode 18 of season 1, like, she doesn't want to die for any reason. Now, obviously, we've learned different sides of her, of course, but, like, I wonder why. Like, does she... Because it seems at times she thinks that there's a chance of them dying once they get home, but she is still like, okay, this is enough information, let's go home. Like, why does she think that they will survive if they go home? And
in this point, it's already been a few years. Has her reason for just wanting to go home changed from what her 12-year-old reason for just wanting to go home would be? At 12, she just wants to go home because that's a safety.
Yeah.
She's 12. She's 12 or 13, somewhere in there. Now she's like 15 or 16, and when she says she wants to go home, is she saying she just doesn't, this is enough, let's not kill all of them and let all of them die? Like, is it slightly, there's more involved in this wanting to go home than just the safety of home and getting to go back?
I don't know. Do you think that... Why do you think Reiner is kind of putting all the heavy stuff on Annie at the moment? Why is she the one doing all the stuff in the... because she's created this character of herself, or...
I think, I think Reiner kind of feels a comfort in Berthold. Like, he needs Berthold to be there for his own, like, mental safety.
Yeah.
And I feel like he sees Annie as someone who can unfaze themselves and just get something done without being emotionally affected.
Yeah.
And I think he recognizes that in her, and that's why he puts this stuff on her, is maybe because he's like, as a leader, he's delegating. Like, he's like, I can't do it. I'm not going to admit that I can't do it. I'm just going to say that Annie is the best one for the job. And I also need my best friend to be here to, like, be with me.
Okay, I'm gonna go crazy time theory now. Okay, this is like
Crazy
really
time
weird.
theory.
So let's call it a day. This is all about like, oh, Annie's like always put you in these tough positions. She's kind of like, I'm definitely reading into this, but she's like smirking, walking away. Follow me here, okay? So
Yeah.
she's like smirking, walking away, like even though that's not how the conversation ended tonal wise.
It reminds me of that smile she gives at Mikasa.
Yeah, and then it's like I keep having the same dream. I dream about the guy who hung himself in the fields, right? And then we get this picture. Why did he tell us that story right before he hung himself? Imagine a world that he told them that story. Annie was leaning on the side of the like house. The night ends that night, and for some reason, Annie goes into his room and tells him the truth that it was actually another one of his race who ate his family while he ran away, or some fucked up shit, like sick shit, and that's why she like has like a cold shoulder to him hanging himself, or something else could have been in there. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Her body language is very signature to her.
It's very interesting.
To the idea that she is just aloof and trying to not have... I mean, you love, like, body language studies.
Yeah.
She's cutting herself off. She's distancing herself. She's keeping the cold shoulder because she's trying to not get emotionally affected or attached.
Or she has a reason for acting like that.
It's all a facade.
I don't know if it's all a facade. I think that she knows something that has put her in she knows something that has put her in a unique position that nobody else in the show has been put in, maybe until Eren now. I think that her father had, like, okay, God, we're gonna have to go back to the scene. What did her father say about the fight that she was having in the season finale of season 1? After seeing the dialogue in that scene, doesn't that hit you different?
Yes.
Thank you.
Totally. Okay. Your dad was wrong, but it's too late. Sounds like maybe she's already started as a Marleyan warrior candidate. And maybe he has come to a change of heart of what is the true... Maybe he met with a restorationist. Maybe he found something that made him realize that forcing this onto her was wrong in general. Just the idea of putting this on his kid was wrong, and it's too late to ask for forgiveness, which makes me think that she has already started this path and she can't go back. She can't decide to not be a candidate anymore. Make the whole world your enemy.
Okay, this is when it gets weird for me. You can make the whole world your enemy, and paired with what she said this episode with how like she feels about Eldians and Marleyans, I feel like she is privy to information and knowledge that only probably the restorationists would have, right? Like, it's different. She comes from a different world and different information than Reiner and Bertholdt and Marcel. Doesn't it seem like that's the case?
While you would think that Reiner's mother was happy at Reiner's leave and Reiner getting this honorary Marleyan status, Annie's father was crying and hugging her and apologizing. Like, their families felt very different about this honor and this path.
Yeah. It feels like Reiner's mom was an Eldian. It feels like Annie's mom or Annie's dad was an Eldian, but also a restorationist. It feels like he had knowledge and told her knowledge that made her act differently to Reiner Bertholdt, because why else would Annie be in a one-on-one fight with Eren right now? I know that Reiner and Bertholdt weren't there, but like I feel like Annie had or has a secondary mission or did before like her dad fucked up.
Was she wanting to go into the military police so she'd be in the interior in order to for another side plan in order to maybe snuff out the king or like get to the king to convince him to fight back or something?
What did you have written down that he said to...
Make the whole world your enemy, and I wrote down a little arrow that says that almost meant that it was okay for her to defy Marley if that's what she felt she needed to do.
It's like an amount of like trust in this one person, right? Like you know.
It's like her father was giving her back the power over her own life at the most he could, because obviously
Which is a
it was
really...
already he couldn't give her back everything.
That's a really weird thing for an Eldian to be given back. Like
he can't take away what has already been done. All he can do is say that he supports her and he will stand with her through whatever decisions she makes from this point on.
Yeah.
And I think I don't think I read that as like emotionally powerful parental moment as I do now. Like you know, you don't see that a lot of like a parent apologizing or admitting they're wrong to something, at least in media, to such like a heavy extent to their child. But to have that, but him also be like, I am always going to be by your side. Always.
Yeah, I feel like Annie's dad is probably my best bet restorationist, but probably had like a more intensive version of Grisha's plan.
Like Grisha was just giving Zeke books and stuff. Like Annie had as a child was like working out, and like he was probably really harsh on her for like training her before the whatever training she went through with the Marlians.
It's what an interesting like parallel though, right?
I mean, it just makes everything seem so much more effed up to have all of the characters on both sides so connected to one another in terms of like common themes of control and lack of freedom and being forced into these really messed up war situations.
Yeah. We got Annie like with like that ring, remember, that like cut herself? Like every time we've ever seen anybody else transform into a Titan, it's been with that like signature knife or bite. Like I wonder if the person who was training her like had it like made, like, okay, this is how it's gonna work, this is the plan. How did he know all this stuff? Did he give her a ring? Like, I don't know. I have so many questions about Annie right now.
I could also see Annie having thought to create that herself.
Yeah, probably
as like a way to sneak in a way that was maybe more appealing to her than the constant biting we had Eren doing when he was struggling to turn into his Titan form.
So coming up to the last
it's also quicker. It was quicker for her to use the ring than if she had to pull out a knife.
Yeah.
And I think
and she didn't have the hands to pull out the knife.
What happened to Marcel informed her kind of wanting to be able to quickly switch at any time when she needed to.
So we have Reiner about to pull the trigger when Falco slams his hand against the wall.
And we haven't even talked about the biggest part of this episode, this very end, like 10 minutes, and it's already been like 2 hours of recording.
Can you believe that we have a potential armored Titan candidate within 200 feet of the current armored Titan that we've known since the first season, but that current armored Titan is in human form with a gun in their mouth a few hundred feet from our main character, who isn't supposed to be here and has facial hair and no leg. like it's a weird situation.
It's like it's a small world after all kind of situation.
But I would love to just read through the dialogue with you here from Eren, like to close it out, because like we said at the start of the discussion, this like brought us home to the first season of Attack on Titan, the dialogue that Eren had.
The weird feeling of Attack on Titan nostalgia when we shouldn't be nostalgic to it when we've been still watching it this whole time.
I'm here for emotional trauma, but it's a lie. Is it though? You kind of are here for emotional trauma. I said I lost my memory and can't go home, but I just don't want to. I wonder if that parallels his father at all. Huh. You know?
Oh, I didn't even... said I lost my memory and can't go home, but I just don't want to. Grisha.
Yeah.
Grisha within Paradis.
Yeah, I wonder, like, he said these words before, huh? It'd be hard to face my family now. Huh. That's weird. Will you snitch on
Is
me?
he channeling Grisha because
Yeah.
he has Grisha's memories, and so he's like acting as if he's Grisha almost?
Bro, Aaron's dead inside at this point. I wouldn't do that. You're hurt. Is it from your warrior training? Yeah, but I won't become one. Fucking Aaron. Another candidate is so talented. I don't even stand a chance. That's good to hear. Huh?
Falco's surprised.
You're a good guy. I hope you live a long life.
And he means it.
But I don't want them to be a warrior. Why not? Is the other candidate a girl? And then Aaron kind of like smiles a little bit. She's famous around here. She did incredible things in the war. Then you see like the little blushies. Everyone's saying that she should be the next armor. You can see a little bit of Aaron's eye, but since I'm powerless, I can't do a damn thing about it. Oh, this is great. This is amazing. Every day I'm here, I think, why did it ever come to this? Damaged minds and bodies, their freedom taken away, even losing themselves. If people knew it would come to this, nobody would go to war. It's interesting because they're surrounded by Eldians right now. Do you think Aaron currently has sympathy for the Eldians?
I think once you get into him talking about hell, I think it shows that even if he does have any sort of empathy or sympathy for or pity for these people, it does not negate what has to be done and what hell. He's already in hell, so he needs to stay in hell in toward a light that could possibly be another hell or hope. And I think that that's him basically saying that at this point it doesn't matter of my feelings or anything like that because I'm already in this situation and I just need to try to find the better future if it even exists.
Do you think Aaron thinks very little of Reiner now seeing this? Do you think that he's like, you are living with these people, you're given this power, and you still choose to follow the people who do this to your own race?
I think Aaron knows enough at this point about people and kids being forced into situations and forced to believe certain things and now he has the memories of Grisha that I think he can get into Reiner's head. And I don't think he would have necessarily lost any respect. I think he would just understand how Reiner ended up the way he did more. Not that would inform his actions, because I think he would do whatever he needed to do.
Just want to reread that last line too, because the next one definitely applies. If people knew it would come to this, nobody would go to war. But most people are pushed by something, forced to march into hell. Then that's true. Like, it's not an active, easy choice that you're making to get you to this position.
Right. The kids thought they were going to defeat something evil. Yeah.
And that's all that whole facade and simplification of it is manipulation at its finest, right? From the highest point. That something wasn't their choice. Their situation or others made them do it. And would you say that that's Aaron's actions right now speaking for themselves, as well as like what Grisha had to do or what?
Yeah. Well, he's basically saying here that he was marched into hell both by Grisha and by the actions of the Marleyan warriors. They forced him into the situation that he is in now. Both of those groups of people.
It almost, like, I could read it potentially as him justifying the actions that he's about to make. Like, I either think Aaron's they're going to do like a counterattack versus all of these people, or they're going to try to take like a higher road kind of thing, you know?
Couldn't Aaron just call and wake up all of the Eldians
right now? If he could, yes. Like if If he wanted to, maybe, yes. But he doesn't. I don't know if Eren can make people into Titans. We know that Zeke can, and I think that Zeke can because he has royal blood within him. I don't think that who's the next candidate after Zeke?
Colt.
I don't think Colt could do that because he doesn't have royal blood. I think Eren
Annie's Titan is able to do it. Regardless.
She was able. That was part of the female Titan ability.
Yeah, but some of them could have shared abilities.
Maybe, but the only time we've ever seen Eren have powers like that were mass control was when he was touching somebody with royal blood.
Or when he felt that emotional surge at the time of facing the Titan that killed his mother.
But the only thing that changed was when he touched the Titan that killed its mother. When he touched the Titan's hand.
That's true.
So like there had to be some connection with blood.
It's been 4 years.
Yeah.
Could he like even be carrying a vial of Historia's blood with him or
Dude,
something?
The possibilities are endless at this point.
They could have figured out a way to have him be able to, even though he didn't want to tell anyone about this because he wanted to protect Historia, there could be something that he's worked out on his own to be able to utilize these powers to the best of his abilities, because he's realized that is the safest for all of the people he cares about, is if he can use these.
The possibilities at this point are literally endless. We could have Armin and Flock on the other side of the country in Antarctica talking to another region, trying to convince them to help them go to war against Marley. You know, we don't know anything could be happening.
You did say, what if we encounter friendlies?
Yeah. But people who push their own backs see a different kind of hell. How do you read that?
Is he... Okay, so I guess you could say that the people that push their own backs are possibly those that continue on with following these choices that have been made for them and not kind of fighting against that, maybe?
Or the people who are making this choice, the people at the top, the people who are making the decisions that influence everybody else to make these decisions without an option, you know? Because, like, I'd say Falco would fall under the guidelines of that something wasn't their choice, their situation or others made them do it, right? But the people who ultimately made these decisions, the higher ups, the people who made these decisions in the first place that led to all these, they are the people pushing their own backs and their own motives.
I remember when we saw what King Fritz was truly like eventually, it had been seasons, and we still had never even seen King Fritz's face or just the way King Fritz asked. And obviously it was the placeholder, like it was a fake king. But I feel like that kind of idea is in my head in terms of the Marleyan, whoever's in charge of Marley, because even the commanders that we've met have questioned somewhat these choices, sending these children that all have these powers that we need to keep within Marley to do this mission that we barely really know anything about. You know, like, I would want to see that same kind of shot and energy we got when we kind of got that reveal of King Fritz's kind of, I think it was like at a very end of an episode, and it was just him sitting in his seat, like, you know, with his head in his hand.
Agreed.
And I feel like I would love to have something parallel to that, but for Marley, whoever's in charge and making these decisions.
Yeah, I'm with you. That would be chilling. Next line. But people who push their own backs see a different kind of hell. They can see something beyond the hell. It might be hope, it may be another hell. So he's talking about himself,
okay,
no?
So yes, if you're pushing your own back, then you are active in this world, and you are actively pushing to get somewhere else.
Yeah.
You're pushing your own back. So he is talking about, he is someone who might have been forced into this, but he is taking it and running with it. He's trying to go somewhere else. He's trying to move forward.
God, does he look fucking tired and tortured.
Yeah.
I would love to know what's going through that man's mind.
Things. It's just, I don't know if I want to see inside his mind. I'm saying, obviously I do want to know, but I'm like, oof. Bet it's cold in there. Better bring a jacket.
Yeah, do you think it's like I want to see these people for intel, or I want to see these people firsthand before I make a decision? Because do you think that Eren now knows how dangerous he could be and what weapon he has in his hands?
I think the people of Paradis, or at least the people that we've followed for all of these years, are the most informed out of everyone. They know the true weight of all of this. They know the cycle. They've seen this cycle and they are aware of it now.
Yeah.
Of just war and having people do what you want them to do, seeing people as lesser and how that could lead to a lot of suffering. So I don't really know what decision is best for him to make, because I couldn't necessarily say that he wouldn't sacrifice a lot of the Eldians that are within Marley, or kill a lot of Marleyans as well, for an eventual end game hope that he might see in his hell. I think it's just kind of like you're in a war, and hopefully when that's over, there is something better.
One last thing that I had written down that I forgot was just the thought of how weird the branch, sitting on the tree branch episode is now, thinking back in retrospect. Like, think about the specifics of when Ymir was dissecting who the orangutan could be and how that could have been Reiner and Bertholt's way home. Like, just thinking about how all that went down now, knowing that Ymir was pushed off the wall that she was, and just where she is now, you know, it's a lot to think about. I don't know. I still want to do a Ymir dissection
Me
video,
too.
but
and I just want to rewatch everything in general.
Yeah, I don't know. You good?
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time.